I'd like to call meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Peter.
Here.
Atkins.
Here.
Connick.
Here.
Crawford.
Here.
Goddard.
Here.
Graff.
Here.
Hagman.
Here.
Hall.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Emick.
Here.
Josting.
Here.
Kriebel. Longfellow. Mennel.
Here.
Mingus. Trail.
Here.
Rich Simpson.
Here.
Schneider.
Here.
Scortino. Sen.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Chairman Zimmerman. You have a form.
Thank you. Stand for the invocation and the pledge, please.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, we just pause and thank Thee for a beautiful day that You've given us. And Lord, we are thankful for the great soil we have here in Tazewell County and the bountiful harvest that once again has come forth. As the farmers are finishing up, Lord, we would pray for continued protection for them and the people traveling on the highways. Lord, as we've gathered here this evening to consider the budget for next year, Lord, we would just pray that You would give us wisdom and discernment as we consider the facts before us, and that we will make decisions which are the best for the people of Tazewell County, and most of all, Lord, that they're pleasing in Thy sight. Lord, be with us when we leave this place. Give us journey's mercy as we go to our homes. For we pray and ask all these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, is there any communications from the public, county employees, or elected or appointed officials? Roy, step up to the podium, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Roy Padgett. I'm a taxpayer from District 2. Did everybody on the board get a copy of this paper? This was offered by taxpayers in District 2, not just myself. Several of those taxpayers have joined us this evening. A rough draft was issued last board meeting and evidently got into some wrong hands. That was meant to be for their eyes only. I don't know how that happened, but this final copy offered by other people than myself is very accurate, and the taxpayers would like to have a moment of your time to discuss what will be done this evening in the budget as far as assigning what we refer to as a new administrative government that is being formed within our own township government. As everybody knows, we are a township government. We have statutes that govern us as a township. And of course, one of the most powerful things that we have is our board members. Board members are the only ones in a township government that can contract. That's a very powerful tool that board members have. And I hope you can remember that. And never give that up. Never give that up. Tonight, the budget will talk a little bit about two positions that they're going to be adding to the new administrative government. This is happening on the 4th floor of McKenzie. And This subject is close to the hearts of our taxpayers. They are a bit angry. They feel that we have a government that is already in play here. It's called the township government, and they're wanting to express their opinions tonight and asking why are we forming another government that we're now up to about $400,000 in taxpayer money that is to form or to add these positions. The positions that we're referencing tonight, which will be discussed, are the assistant county administrator position and the finance manager / supervisor position. And these positions, I'm not sure, but it appears none of them have job descriptions as of yet. So, $400,000, yet we have constitutional statutory officials that have been elected to run this county government. One of them, Mary Burris, treasurer. Certain things have been mentioned, unkind things regarding her staff. She and the recent elected official that taxpayers, the voters have chosen, and we want to clear up some of that tonight. Can I say something about Mary Burris? I don't know if you know this, but she's retiring at the end of the month. She has 29 days left. And on that note, I would like to recognize her, but let me just tell you a little bit about our treasurer. She's not just our treasurer. She is the chief financial officer of Tazewell County. She is also the chief investment officer of Tazewell County. She is also the collector of Tazewell County. So she holds multiple roles that are statutory and constitutional to this township government. There is no need to create an administrative government. Now, some of you may not know, and I just talked to Russ earlier, Russ Crawford, and I'm going to read you a textbook statement what an administrative government is. Perhaps you can kind of see where we're going with this. This is a textbook definition, and it says, administrative government is where the elected leader creates more and more unelected government positions which take an ever-increasing role in day-to-day governance. There is little oversight, transparency, or incentive to minimize the costs they impose on tax-paying citizens and less of a voice in our government process. Administrative government is not healthy for any governing body and conflicts with both the Constitution and good government. Thank you, Russ, for at least acknowledging that.
You need to start wrapping this up in like 5 minutes.
Okay, so in 5 minutes, you'll be conducting business. You'll be talking about adding to the administrative government. We ask that you are mindful. And one last thing, we hope that this page, a couple of pages we gave you, that you'll read over. I'm not going to read it to you. I know you can read. But as elected official board members who have taken an oath to serve the public interest and protect the public coffers, it is your collective duty to eradicate anything in terms of misuse, favoritism, or public funds. We ask that you're mindful of your oath of office. We also ask that you're mindful of our constitutional elected officials who are here serving our government, a township government, of which we are all a part of. Please, let's use the people that we have in power, and let's not build a government within a government. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Mike, and Mike. We got Mike and Mike up here tonight, so we appreciate Mike and we appreciate what he does. Also, I do want to recognize he's new to our county, and we appreciate what you do as well. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And one last thing. Thank you, Mary Burris. Thank you, Mary Burris.
Are there any other people that have comments?
Thank you, Mary Burris, for serving this county. You're the longest reigning treasurer in the history of Tazewell County. Well done. You've been good and faithful servant to the taxpayers. Thank you very much.
other public or elected or appointed officials?
I would just like to say one thing. Thank you very much for almost 40 years of service here in Tazewell County. It has been truly an honor to be your treasurer for the last 12 years, and to actually work for 39 years, almost 40 in the treasurer's office is such an honor. And as Roy said, 3 years ago, I had this argument: stop growing government. Let the elected officials do their job. Make them do their job. You appointed them you elected them to do their job. Make them do their job. Let them do their job. Thank you.
Sam?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what these two individuals just said. Population in this state is shrinking, and growing the government anymore makes 0 sense.
Any other comments? All right, we'll move to the budget overview, and Nick, you're on board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to start off this meeting with, I know there's a couple new board members present tonight, and when I was a new board member, I hate somebody pointing out that I was a new board member, and not that it's any way diminishing, because it's not. But I've heard some questions already this evening, so I just kind of want to go through the overview of the process before I turn it over to Michael. The budget, we started off this budget back in August. I assigned, budget comes out of the budget committee, which is part of the finance committee, they're identical. I assigned specific board members on the finance committee to meet with specific departments and our county administrator, so he could learn how the departments work, they could learn how the departments work, and kind of be their advocate throughout the process. So this budget has been reviewed one time by the county board member that was assigned to that department and Michael and his staff. We've had 2 interim just budget committee meetings where the budgets, particularly in the general fund, have been gone over twice. We've looked at them, we've talked about them, we've discussed them, we went through them, we know the numbers, there's going to be some changes tonight, but generally we have an idea of what's going to take place. Tonight is tentative budget. The full board is involved. Every board member has the opportunity to weigh in on the particular budget. Nothing's off limits. Obviously, I don't want to be here till 3 in the morning, but if there's something that you want to talk about, please bring it up. Don't think that since it's already been looked at 3 times already, that you can't talk about it. That's the point of this meeting, is to do this. And there'll be one more opportunity at final budget, which is 2 weeks from tomorrow. Our county board is early this month. Our county board meeting is early this month because of Thanksgiving. We will have a meeting Thursday, whatever that day is, or excuse me, Wednesday, whatever day that is, 2 weeks from tomorrow, and 16th. Following the county board meeting, we will have final budget. So use this as an opportunity to understand the process. Now, what I'll also point out to you as a county board member, the budget is the most important job that you have as a county board member. Now, Mr. Crawford would argue that because he's going to say the levy is the most important job. But I think the most important job for a county board member is to thoroughly review this budget. You represent the taxpayers of your district. We have to spend money. I understand that it's hard to spend money. I understand times are tight. But I also understand that the state has mandated us to do things, and we are statutorily required to operate as a county, and that involves spending money. That's our job, is to overview this process. So tonight, as we're going through this, I'm going to move through very rapidly. However, stop me if you have a question. Okay? Any questions now, before I turn it over to Michael to give a budget overview? Mr. Crawford?
Not a question, a comment. And by the way, I do not disagree with you. I agree with what you said. But I want to add one more point, and this is particularly for people who are new to the budget process, some board members and some others in the room. Another big thing that happens in tentative budget is we sort of, according to Robert's rules, we sort of thank the finance committee and the budget subcommittee for all their work, but it moves out of their hands. The budget formally becomes owned by this full board at tentative budget. So no more changes can take place in any budget meeting, even though we don't have any schedule. It can't take place in staff, in the auditor's office or in the finance department. No, or by even the administrator. No changes can take place, because once we approve tentative budget, then it's owned by this body and no other body. And then that will go to final budget on the 16th. Thank you.
Anyone else? Before I forget, the packet you were handed out tonight, I asked the staff to put page numbers on the packet. So when instead of me holding up a piece of paper that says it looks like this, I can tell you what the page number is referred to. And it's got a T in front of it because tonight is tentative budget. So you look back on this and you know that the T for page 1 came out of tentative budget. Okay? Any other questions? Hi.
Thank you. Okay, first I'm going to start off going over the entire budget. So this is a visual graphic of a summary of all funds. So that includes the general fund, the special revenue funds, the information funds, and debt service funds. You'll see the major categories, as was mentioned before, is the property tax levy. That is the single largest source of revenue that we have. The next category is consumption taxes. So this would include all of the sales tax related revenue that we have from those purchases done within the county, including the public safety sales tax, occupational tax, the cannabis tax, and video gaming tax. Then we have intergovernmental revenue. And some of the larger amounts in this would be the Illinois state income tax portion of revenues that we receive, the personal property replacement tax that also gets paid through the state of Illinois, the county motor fuel tax. We receive quite a bit of federal grants for the health department, for example. It's $2,600,000 in this year's budget. Also get state grants, $706,000 for the health department. So that's an example of some of the intergovernmental revenues that we receive. For licenses and permits, one of the larger items that we get in the general fund would be our landfill host fee. And there's various fees from the different departments, from community development, county clerk, those type of offices that contribute to charges for actually doing a service. And then for license and permits and charges for services, we also have the circuit clerk's office as far as collecting fees, the real estate transfer tax collected for the county clerk. And so that's a quick summary of the revenues that we get. We have transfers, and this is how we structure our IMRF and Social Security payments. We have the funds being taxed and collected in the IMRF and Social Security fund, and then that revenue then gets dispersed to the general fund to pay for those services. On the use side, the personnel is by far the largest category of services for us, and that's typical for government. The second are capital services, and then the capital outlay we have. So at the top, you may notice we have the source of funds being $74 million and the use of funds being $92 million. So I list 4 of the major differences or reasons why there is such a gap. The first being the ARPA funds. So we've received both of the payments of our ARPA funds, and next year we plan to spend $10.3 million. And so that's a planned spend down that we've already received all the revenue from. On the general fund, we have a 3.2 million spend down, and I'll explain that one a little bit more in the coming slides. And the other two are for highway projects with county motor fuel tax at 2.9 million and matching tax at 700,000. So those are the largest spend down of funds that we have currently. As far as the general fund, this is a breakdown of the sources and uses. The sources being 35 million and the uses being 37 million. The consumption taxes are by far the largest source, and personnel is the largest source of expenses. So I mentioned that I would describe some of the differences on why we have the general fund spend down. We are embarking on major capital projects over the next 5 years. In the coming year, we have 1.7 million worth of projects that we plan on doing within our buildings. And so this includes here in the Justice Center, the McKenzie building, the courthouse, the MA building, and animal control. We also have, and so this is going to continue on for the next 4 years. We have a capital project plan within the budget, and the amounts varying from 1.5 to 2 million spending to help improve our buildings. On the IT side, the budget includes getting a new enterprise resource planning system. So this would be, they're known as the financial system that runs the finances within the office or within the county. We've got a system that we implemented recently that hasn't been meeting our needs, and this would be the funding to be able to go out for RFP and see if there's something out there that would better suit our needs. It also includes $150,000 for a website redesign. It's been quite a while since our website has been updated, and we'd like to make it completely mobile friendly, and so that would be the funding for that project. And this gives the general fund operating surplus or deficit. So we mentioned that our revenues this year are 35 million, and the expenses were the 38.2. This is after making any changes that are recommended on this adjustment sheet. So the original slides had what came out of budget, and this would show if everything that's on the T1 page in your packet, the adjustments if they were to be approved. So once we back out our one-time capital costs and building administration, the adjustments, Justice Center, and the enterprise resource planning and new websites, that is a large cost a one-time cost that we're having this year. Then if you also back out the contingency that we put in the budget every year, our goal is not to spend it, but it is there if it is to be needed. So that would end with adjusted expenses of $365,000. So that would put us at a net operating surplus this year at 1.6 million. And so that operating surplus is helping us pay for those capital projects that we have planned for this year.
That slide is item T25 in your packets. So if you want to see it up close and personal, it's T25.
Thank you. This is a graph that was presented in the last Finance Committee. It's looking at our projected revenues and expenses as of year end and the fund balance and what it'll do to the general fund. So we're projected to be about 35 million as far as the fund balance at the end of this year. Then we have the planned spend down over multiple years in order to carry out the capital projects that we plan for our buildings. So that's where you'll see a slight dip over the next 5 years. And then it rebounds a little bit and staying flat to eventually slightly going down. This is certainly some assumptions built into the model, but it just gives you a rough estimate of where we are and where we could be in the future. And the red line would be the reserve policy for the county with having at least 33%. On the tax levy, so we do have the tax levy within the budget book. It's basically right after the all funds. And so this is a graphical representation of it. We do have 11 different funds that we levy for. So it'd be the county general, the IMRF, Social Security, county highway, county bridge, matching tax, county health, veterans, the PDD, risk management, and the Tazewell U of I extension. So this breaks down the share of where the recommended tax levy is for each of those categories. Also have on the right side, FY22, the tax levy request was 15.4 million. During the tax levy cycle, that was brought down to 15.1 due to us being PTEL. And so I have a chart at the bottom that explains how a little bit of PTEL. So generally, we are only able to increase the tax levy up to the percentage of CPI from the prior year. And historically, it has matched that. There's one exception. If CPI goes above 7%, then PTEL requires that we're capped at 5%. And so this would include having the levy increase by 4.99%, with 15,940,000 would be the total tax levy. That's my very quick overview of our budget.
Any questions for Michael before we move on? Ms. Connick?
Remind me what the, you had, the percentage of, that blue graph that you had up, the percentage. Go back a couple slides, I'm sorry, that right there. That percentage in that, how have we been doing around 33%? Would you remind me what we've been doing in the, say, last 5 years?
Yes, before the recession, the average was in the 50 to 70%.
That's what I thought. Okay, go ahead. And then we drop down.
We actually have gone up, and so now we're closer to the 102% range before. At the end of this year, then with the capital projects that we have, that would start dipping it back down, and that's why you see it starting to go down.
So at the end of this graph, you have 2032, so you're forecasting to keep it around 33%?
That is with assuming that our revenue goes at 1% per year and expenses grow at 1.4. So there's some built-in estimates on there for the FY 2023 budget. We did reduce some revenues, knowing that there's some uncertainty. So we're starting with the revenue amounts in 2023 and then carrying it out with those assumptions going forward. Now, it's certainly estimates, because there's no straight lines when it comes to these estimates, but it's just putting some projections out there so we have at least a general baseline. And more so within the next 5 years, I want to see what it would look like with the capital investment that we included in the 5-year plan. And so this trends it out to that, and then with the assumptions provided.
So this is with the ability to put the brakes on if needed be, correct?
Absolutely. So there will be some capital projects that become an emergency, but there's certainly things, dare I say, the windows in the courthouse that unless they get broke, they wouldn't have to get fixed, but they're in the plan to get repaired.
We went through a period where we weren't fixing things, and it really cost us money. That I think, you know, if we stopped going out that 5 and 10 year projects and what needs to be done the next year. So we've gotten back to that, is what I'm assuming from the property, from the minutes that I've been reading. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Any other questions? Okay, we're going to move in then to the budget book. I'm going to start on page 28, but I also want to call your attention to sheet T1, that's the top sheet on here. Those are going to be some amendments we're going to make to the budget as we go through there. I will call your attention to them as we move through. How that sheet works, the first left line of that sheet, first number is like T6. That corresponds to a document you were passed out to tonight that shows the actual budget. The next line is the budget book, the page in the budget book we're talking about, what the permit is, the account number, what the account title is, what the change is, and the rationale for the change. We'll discuss those specifically when we get to those. So I'm gonna ask for a motion to open the general fund budget. Rich Simpson, Atkins. As we go through these budgets, if there's something that you wanna talk about, bring it up. If there's something you wanna change, make a motion to amend, and we'll discuss it. If it gets amended and approved, it goes into the budget. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Just like any other county business. Everybody good? Okay, we're on page 28. That is the revenues, the projected revenues for the county for the fiscal year beginning December 1st. We are projecting revenues, and that's shown on page 32, the total of $35,039. Try that again. It's gonna be a long one. $35,039,157. We tend to budget revenues low on purpose. It's always better to get more money than you thought you were going to get. Mr. Harris.
You're on page 27.
32. It starts on, the revenues start on page 28 and go to page 37. I'm 32. I'm 32. Like I said, it's going to be a long night. 32. So, for example, property tax revenue, $6,043,182. Does anybody have any changes they want to make to the revenues?
Thank you. There are a couple items on the adjustment sheet that do affect revenues. The first one would be EMA. The HMEP grant is in line 100, 220, 4100 on page 54. We're increasing that revenue. Dawn has now gotten the official document, and so we're increasing the revenue to actuals. So it's going from 20,520 to 23,240. The other revenues, I believe, are in other funds. So that would be the only revenue adjustment.
Harrison. No, I'm going to do these all at once from that sheet. Any other questions on revenues? Okay, moving on then to the circuit clerk, page 100. Is that right? Page 33. I'm sorry, looking at the wrong. Count 100, page 33. I'll get it going, guys. We're kidding. So in this budget, it's been proposed that we adjust line 5249, that's the circuit clerk's audit. It's an actual increase from our auditor of $5,559 because of the increased projection for audit costs this year. And that is on page 34 of the document. Nobody has a problem with that $5,000 leather chair in your spine. Anything else on circuit clerk? Okay, moving on then to jury commission, page 35. There's no changes proposed in that line, or in that budget, excuse me. Questions on jury commission? Moving on, page 37, state's attorney. Mr. Harris, you had a lot of questions during committee. Are you good with the state's attorney's budget now?
I've been answered.
Moving on then to Public Defender, page 40. There is a change that we will be proposing in a minute. We are moving one line from one to another. It's not a change, it's just an accounting shuffle. We're moving $3,400 from software maintenance to capital outlay software. We're making that software purchase a capital expense rather than a contractual expense. Got it.
Am I reading that right? 112% increase in support staff personnel? We have to hire a bunch more people in that department, or?
Page 40.
Got it. You're looking at line number 1205003, correct? Went from 1 FTE to 2 FTEs for 2023. Go ahead.
Okay, for this, the public defender, who is also here, is requesting to change his part-time person to full-time. So you'll see the part-time going from 0.5 to 0, and then the support staff going from 1 to 2. So that would be the request.
Other questions? Okay, moving on to courts, page 42. In the courts, there is a change in rent. There is no rent being proposed, and we would change line item 5360 to include $3,600 for the guardian ad litem new office rent. Any other questions on courts? Moving on then to court services, page 45. No tentative changes proposed. Questions? Moving on into probation upgrade, page 47. No changes proposed. Any discussion? Page 49, court security. No changes. Moving on to page 50, Sheriff's Department. There's one change, it's a big one. It's on page 51, it's line 5215, healthcare services. This is prisoner healthcare. The contracts went out for bid, they came in extremely high. It's ending up, we're going to have to budget $186,000 more than we thought we were going to. So that line has changed from $450,000 to $636,000. May
I ask why this happened? This jump, I mean, would the sheriff have any enlightenment to this?
Sheriff, would you try to comment on that?
Sure.
Thanks.
I'm not here, sir.
Okay.
Our current healthcare provider, WellPath, came to us last December and said that they are canceling our contract. Over the past few years, they've attempted to increase their fees by about 6% a year. I have resisted. We usually got about 2 to 3 in an agreement. This year, they wanted I think it was a 10% increase, and I said no. They said buy. We put it out for RFP, and I'll tell you the 2 that we got in, Med Trust came in at $648,000, and the other one, Advanced, came in at almost $1 million. Went back to WellPath, asked them to reconsider, and that was the increase they gave me, which was $10,000 less than the other two bids. Now, the healthcare system, as it is, prices are going up. They're blaming lawsuits for the increase. So, they've got us over a barrel because this is mandated. We have no choice but provide these services.
I wondered if it was the insurance.
That's part of it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sheriff. Any other concerns about the sheriff's budget? Moving on then, page 53, EMA. EMA has got a change that Michael's already talked about. There's also, they're receiving a grant, and I'm assuming the professional fees are the expenditure of the grant.
That is correct.
So we've changed this to accommodate the income coming from the grant and spending the grant funds. Any other questions on EMA? Moving on then to page 56, corner. Page 58, community development. Page 61, county board. Page 63, auditor. Page 65, county clerk election. There's one request for change that's on line 5541 on page 67. That would be to purchase 4 additional printers for early voting stations. Excuse me. Currently, the clerk only has 1 printer per early voting location. This would allow for a backup unit and a spare to move the lines along. I've personally witnessed them trying to use a mechanical switch to switch computers between printers. It didn't work. It caused backups, I know, in Morton and Washington during early voting. So that would be the change that's proposed right now. Is there other discussion? Ms. Conlon?
Thank you. Not questioning any one in particular thing here. I have some questions in this statement. Now, last year, the actual expenses, which by this book here that we've got on page 6, was $1,281,301 for the clerk's office. Budgeted for this year, according to this book on page 10, is $1,534,372. So then, according to this book on page 18, the estimates that they're going to finalize with as estimate expenses, $1,525,735. So if one goes back through the minutes this last year, I believe it would be found that the clerk stated that to the public and this board, that he has saved the taxpayers of Tazewell County some figure over $400,000 for the year. So, whatever the case is or the amount, where is it? Does the clerk budget have an overage this year? I saw no transfers back to the general fund. I may have missed some overages or transfers from the clerk to the general fund, but I've asked the question before, and the answer was no, there was no transfers back to the general fund. I don't know who can answer that, maybe Mr. Delahara can answer that, I don't know. But I would like the clerk to lower his budget by $400,000 or even $200,000, since he saved the taxpayers money last year, and in light of the information showing that the workload in the clerk's division is down. So I, for one, do not appreciate the snow job the clerk is giving the public taxpayers. This county board, and especially me personally, it's very insulting to all of us. I will vote no to the clerk's budget as is. Thank you.
Got it.
Following up on that comment, looking at this budget, the county clerk's budget is the lowest I've seen so far in this book, almost 10% lower. And in my opinion, every budget that was submitted by every department head should be lower this year.
Harris.
I have another issue with this budget. The county clerk intends to go to 40 hours a week for his employees. The additional hours that would create adds up to another full person, bottom line. The budget does not reflect the reduction or the transfer of that one person. He says he's gonna pay, the county clerk gonna pay for that salary. And we're budgeting for it here and not in the fee fund. So I believe an FTE should be moved out of here and moved to the fee fund. So if there's no discussion, do I make the motion to amend, or do you want to wait?
Let's finish discussing his budget, and then I'll come back to you. Any other comments by the board? Mr. Clerk? Would you like to respond?
Yeah, thank you. The last question, first, we are going to a 40-hour work week in December. The cost, which is $20,000, which would have been going to the general fund, will be absorbed by the fee fund, the recorder deeds fee fund, to take care of that expense. So it's not an additional FTE or an additional salary, it's about $20,000 the finance department has estimated, which we will again generate out of the fee fund. We've already looked at this and budgeted it and figured it out on how it would work so that it doesn't cost the taxpayers of Tazewell County any additional revenue. As far as the question on the $400,000 savings, if you look at line item, I think one thing you'll notice is if over the 4 years you haven't done anything to really increase my budget, what Mr. Dodar pointed out, and I appreciated that. But if you take a look, you'll see 4 years, a lot of costs going up, a lot of dramatic cost increases. I use a lot of paper. Paper costs have really excelled. Magically, your budget's remained exactly the same. As a matter of fact, cost of employees has drastically decreased during my term as county clerk because of utilizing our fee funds to reduce that revenue charge to the general fund. As far as the $400,000, if you take a look at the election judge line item, even with the increase in pay for the election judges that you approved at your last meeting, that projected cost into the future is drastically reduced because of the precinct redistricting, which you guys approved, and I appreciate. Thank you. The other cost reduction is if you take a look under election supplies, line number 602-5160, you'll see an 88% drop. It's not truly 88%. We broke that out for you further so you can see it. If you took a look at our Liberty line item, which is on the next page, you'll see that their budget cost, even though it's not shown there, it's shown up above, their cost has decreased, as I outlined for you in the projections when I talked to the board about the loss of cost. That was a contractual agreement, so you have the contract showing the decreased costs going to them. As far as not returning anything to the general fund, we held off because not in this budget is $65,000 that should have been for this year charged to you. that we're hoping to be able to use all of the surplus savings to pay so that you don't have to remove it from the contingency fund. And that $65,000 was the mandate we received from the state of Illinois to mail out postcards to all registered voters in Tazewell County. Rather than come back to the board and have that tacked onto it through contractual, the finance committee, when we presented it, agreed to keep everything the way it was and absorb as much of it as we can by draining our budget. That'll include in savings that we have in the print shop this year. A portion of that will be going up to take care of that overflow as well. Basically, everything that we've saved this year that we've on money, we're going to, rather than return to the general fund, pay down the debt that the state of Illinois charged us by increasing the cost for us to produce elections. But I believe, again, if you really take a serious look, anybody over this budget book, especially over the last 4 years, you'll see that the cost of doing elections in Tazewell County has drastically been reduced, while at the same time the cost of running elections has drastically increased. Doesn't seem like that's possible, but that's through streamlining operations, precinct redistricting, which you guys have been very gracious to approve twice now. They've really come around to save us and really help the overall budget. I know also our election judge line item, we're projecting just for the election judges we are required to have on election day, but really within that number 2, we are counting in those that have to be in our office. Instead of normally having election judges only in our office for the last 2 weeks of the election cycle, because of changes, we've had to have them in since day 1. And that'll be the change going forward into the future because of the changes by the state of Illinois. Rather than put that cost into a booklet, which would cost taxpayers of Tazewell County by increasing our budget line, we've absorbed that knowing that we will have an overflow in election judge line item for salaries. So we've designated that to cover that cost. I know there was some talk about us just going in and adding that in, but any additions that we add now, if we return money to the general fund, it's not saving taxpayers any dollars whatsoever because they've already been taxed that revenue. It's better to save it on the for side of it by not including in additional costs. That's the only true way that you save taxpayers, because the county board is not going to return additional revenue back to the citizens of Tazewell County. We charge it on the front end with the collection of taxes.
Mr. Harris.
Yeah, I disagree in a couple areas. You're saying the difference to the general fund on your addition of 40 hours is only $20,000. It adds up to one person. That's more than $20,000. Now you keep saying the general fund, the taxpayer don't have to pay. The taxpayer is paying the fees. That's a tax to the public, just as our real estate taxes are. The fee fund is nothing separate. So our taxpayers are paying in both funds. So you're costing the taxpayer additional $50,000+ for this 40-hour thing. So I still think, and we're budgeting at that in the general fund, we should move that up. The second thing is you keep saying that you're saving money that should go back to the general fund, you're using it here, using it there. You haven't told anybody how much money you've drawn out of the general fund to your fee fund to help support all your moves. So I cannot support your budget at all.
Other comments? Mr. Harris, do you want to make a motion to amend?
Sure. I'll take a fly. I move to reduce the FTE count in the county clerk's office by 1 to support the 40-hour week program. They're not supported.
So you're looking at line 6025003.
Yes.
Reduce that from 7.75 to
6.75.
And the calculation would be made at a later time. We have that by final. I know that. Finance Director, can you give me a dollar amount of the? I'd rather have a dollar amount, but I know that's going to be tough. You got it?
Based on when I looked at it, for the clerk's office to go completely to 40 hours would be $52,325. That would include the salaries for both union and management positions, as well as the Social Security IMRF costs that would be attached to it.
If I could though.
I'll second that amendment.
So I wanna make sure the amendment's straight. Do you wanna stick to the full time, or would you rather go to the amount? I would prefer you went to the amount.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Your preference is actually required. And Mike, the reason I didn't raise my hand earlier is Mike sort of saved it by converting Mr. Harris's to amount of money. During this tentative budget session, it's the job of every member, if they're gonna make motions, to either raise or lower dollar amounts. Not be playing with the accounting and not be playing with the percent of FTEs. They've got to convert that to dollars. So thanks to Mike and Mr. Chairman, your gut instinct is spot on.
Mr. Parliamentarian, do you agree with that?
I do, and actually, Russ was just a little bit quicker to call a point of order. I had the same issue.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Give me that amount again, please.
$52,325.
That's your motion, Mr. Harris?
Yes.
That's your second, Mrs. Conley?
Yes.
There's been a motion made and seconded to reduce the clerk's budget by the appropriate amounts that would be spread over the budget for IMRF, Social Security, salary, medical insurance. Everybody understand the motion? Mr. Mr. Mendel, go ahead. Okay, Ms. Smith?
Okay, so you're saying to eliminate that amount because of the 40-hour work week, or actually equates to 52,000 instead of 20,000? That's where we got that number, or no? Am I lost?
We got that number based upon what the administrator, I gotta learn this, pronounce your last name. The administrator, estimated that the cost of going the 40-hour work week would be. That's where the number comes from. It was initially brought up that Mr. Harris wanted to reduce just one personnel, but my two parliamentarians said we can't do that. We have to have exact dollar amount. Is that how can we do that? Any other questions by the board members? Go ahead, Mr. Porter.
Well, with all due respect, the county administrator is inaccurate on this because he's estimating my full staff going to 40 hours. Already, a majority of my recorder deeds division is already in the fee fund, along with other employees in the county clerk fee fund. By removing them from the general fund and putting them into the fee funds, it's not going onto the taxpayers' property tax rolls. They're being paid for by the fees generated by that office. So it lowers the amount that I'm charging to the property taxpayers of Taxville County. The amount that would be left for the general fund to consume was estimated by payroll accurately to be around roughly $20,000. I could bring that estimate to you at the next meeting if you'd like, but what you would be doing by eliminating $52,000 is more than doubling the amount that would be drawn from the general fund. I wish the county administrator and others would have talked to me about this because the payroll department had already extensively taken a look at this and estimated what the true cost, including every time I do this, I absorb all of the costs for Social Security, all of the medical and health that goes along with it because those are controlled by you and only you can increase those. So if I'm going to increase the way I'm doing something with that, I have to turn around and absorb that cost as well. So I would ask that the county board not do this because the effect would be, I think, opposite of what you intend it to be, which would be that you would be eliminating an employee in that office, at which point I'd ask which division, vitals or elections, because they're the only two that come out of the general fund. The recorder of deeds division, again, overwhelmingly does not. So which employee would you like to remove? Your tax collector that collects all of your revenue? Your bookkeeper?
We're just on dollars. You're pushing the issue.
Well, you're making a decision though based on inaccurate numbers.
I'm sorry.
Well, mine is just tied to all of this, and it's something I would like to ask of John if that could be possible. these fee funds, we know we have no control over them as a board. My question is, the employees that have been designated to being paid out of the fee fund, I'd like to know what your prediction is about the success of that fee fund continuing for how many years before the board is back to paying those salaries instead of out of the fee funds. What, do you see a growth in those funds? You mentioned once you didn't think it was going to be because of all the no marriage licenses, no birth certificates, etc. So now you're seeing, do you have some predictions on the future of that? I don't think we need that tonight particularly, but I would like to have that.
I'd be happy to answer that now. So you are right, I did predict 2 years ago that our county clerk fee fund, the smallest one, would be eliminated far into the future, probably about 8 to 10 years I projected. Because there was no more births, we don't have a birthing hospital anymore, so I'm relying only on revenue from home births, but at the same time our cost of printing birth certificates continues. We fixed that internally with the help of Bellwether right after I gave you that report because we can't afford to have it go bankrupt. So we fixed it with Bellwether by renegotiating contracts with our vendors, by reallocating some money into different accounts that was being charged there. So we reduced the burden. Now that account is perpetually going to continue to grow. Amazingly also, a big benefit of it was our internal move to offer e-certified marriage certificates to save us vastly on the cost while providing a new stream of revenue for us. So that has fixed that account. In the Recorder of Deeds fee fund, by having all of the documents now digitized, that account will be decreasing over the next several years. It's about $300,000 right now. It'll belly out at about $250,000, and then it'll start projecting back up. I project by the end of this next 4-year term of mine, midway through, I'll be gifting the county board $100,000 to $150,000 each year in order for you to deduct that from the general fund.
Thank you very much.
There'll be additional revenue in there.
Call for the question.
Not yet, Mr. Collins.
Okay. So I suppose you would be the only one that can answer that question about where those fee funds come from and where the general fund comes into play? Or could our administrator or our finance person answer that?
I don't see how your question relates to the motion to amend.
How would the idea that it would cost the county general more money by lowering or taking away that much money for that extra 40-hour work week, how is that going to cost the county general more money when it comes out of the fee fund? Is there any way you can answer that for me?
I'll do my best.
Thank you.
So, with the fee funds, as I've previously stated, I have a disagreement with Mr. Ackerman as far as how the fees are distributed. They're currently, the board had approved set fees, and Mr. Ackerman has changed the distribution as of 2021. That is why the fee fund is a lot more revenue going to it than previously had, and that isn't according to what the resolution that the board had passed. So that makes the fund much more sustainable in that manner. As far as the general fund, I've recommended to the county clerk not to go to 40 hours since there is a decreased workload from what I can see from the revenues. Example would be for the reporting fees within the general fund. There's a $60,000 reduction in what the revenue is supposed to be collected at the end of this year as compared to last year. The death certificate revenue is $11,000 down. The certified marriage certificates, $5,900. Birth certificates, there's not many births done here in Tazewell County, $3,700. So adding up the notary fees, the state's taking over the process for notary fees, and no longer county clerk will have a role in that process. So in total, there's going to be $86,000 less revenue estimated into this year, financial year, as compared to next year. From what Mr. Ackerman has said, he plans on paying for it from his fee fund, so the assumption is he would shift whatever amount of salary is necessary from the general fund to, or the portion of a person's salary from the general fund to the fee fund. So there'd be a less percentage of each FTE getting paid out of the general fund, but the equivalent total dollar amount. And that is the way that he would compensate, from my understanding, to have the fee fund report. Does that come close?
Mr. Crawford?
Roll call request.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second to end this. All in favor of calling the question, say aye. Opposed? Okay, the motion to the question has been called. We have a motion on the floor to amend the clerk's budget by removing $52,395 from the appropriate accounts. All in favor, say aye.
Mr. Chairman, that's for roll call.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Peter?
Aye.
Atkins?
Aye.
Connick?
Aye.
Crawford?
Nay.
Goddard?
No.
Graff?
No.
Hagman?
No.
Hall? Harris?
Aye.
Emig?
No.
Josting?
Aye.
Grable? Longfellow? Minow?
Yes.
Mingus? Correa?
Aye.
Rich Simpson?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Scortino? Sen?
No.
Smith?
No.
Chairman Zimmerman? Ten to seven, motion passes.
Okay, the budget is amended. Is there other discussion on the clerk's budget? Mr. Goddard?
I would just like to remind the board what we're here for. We're here to serve the population of Tazewell County by saving them money. Now, we're going through budgets. Most of the budgets are higher than last year's budget. We come to a budget that's substantially lower, and we want to nitpick that one. I think we need to set our personal vendettas aside and do what we're here to do.
Any other comments on the clerk's budget? Mr. Atkins?
With regards to the FTE issue, I would like to have more information before final budget. I'm not sure whether the presentation by Mr. Ackerman or Mr. Deliri was actually correct with regards to the FTE issue. I voted for this, but if the information actually shows that Mr. Ackerman's view is more accurate than what the administrator has given us, then I would seriously reconsider. But with the information we had tonight, I felt that was the right decision. So I'm asking that before the final budget that we have from both sources complete information.
I just want to state that I agree with Mr. Atkins that I'd be willing to reconsider if there was other information that was provided before the next budget meeting.
Mr. Crawford?
I appreciate both those comments. Can somebody restate the vote?
Yes, the vote was 10 ayes, 7 nays, with 5 absent.
Other changes to the clerk's budget? Okay, moving on then to County Recorder of Deeds, page 68. There are no changes proposed for this budget.
Just because the question came up and you've removed it, the recorder of deeds from my budget and put it into a separate one, if you take a look there, you will see in 2018, you were paying $322,000 for the recorder of deeds office. Now you are budgeted to be paying quarter of deed, sorry, it doesn't have the information. I'm looking at the wrong page, but you're paying $9,000 for an entire division of your office. It does nothing but deliver you revenue.
Comment.
Mr. Harris?
A theme has been the taxpayer's dollar. The taxpayer's still paying the total salary. So money's just being shifted around the books.
Anything else on the recorder of deeds? Page 69, County Treasurer. Mary's last budget, and we're gonna leave her alone. Congratulations, Madam Treasurer.
Thank you.
Moving on then to County Administration, page 71. County Administration, we're going to talk about the contingency, but I'll come back to that later because you've already messed with them a little bit. County Administration. Ms. Miller.
I'm not sure where to talk about this because there's been two new departments added, I think, to the budget, if I understand it right, IT and finance, but if I'm not mistaken, but from what I can see, there's two, it'll result in two new employees if it was approved eventually. And I just want to comment that I've long thought that the administrator has been overworked, and I believe that we should do something about that. I hear about that's how we value our employees and all this kind of thing over the years, but 60, 70 hours a week is not valuing our employees. So I just wanted to say that before.
Ms. Conlon.
So my understanding of this is we aren't actually going to put these positions into play at this point in time. This is basically, in case this does come up, which it's already been filtering through, we are to just have it budgeted in case that we do decide to put these positions into play. Is that correct?
You are correct. If approved, this issue would go to HR for review, creation of job descriptions, everything that would be involved in the creation of a new positions, then to finance or executive, I'm not sure how that would work, and then back to the full board for approval. So this is just the preliminary, putting the money in the budget, decide if that's what we want to do somewhere down the road.
Okay, I agree to that point as far as budgeting. I have other issues with some other things in it, but as far as the money goes, we need it budgeted, and the positions, not so much, but we will let it go at this point to make ready. Thank you.
Mr. Crawford, I knew you'd have your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I must oppose, and I have talked to you personally about it, the proper procedure in all the years I've ever been here is we don't take this personally, Mike, it's only business, right? But because the administrator says, well, let's stick it in here, that's not the way it works. It goes through the appropriate committee, which Mr. Graff is correct, it'd either be finance or HR or maybe even exec, or a combination, and it would have to have a positive recommendation to the board. And then the board would need to vote on that with a majority vote. And then it can be put in a tentative budget. If the tentative budget is already passed, it stays out of the tentative budget, and it gets amended on final budget. But to go stick this in here when it hasn't seen the light of day in a committee or on this county board is never the way we do things here, and I'm gonna oppose this, and everybody on the board should. Thanks.
Mr. Atkins, do you see any procedural issue with this process?
You know, I've actually had a few conversations about this, because I wasn't sure if this was the right way to do it. I don't see that there's anything that is clearly wrong under standard parliamentary procedure, but I have to defer to Russ that, the length of time he's been on the board, if he says this is not the way we've done it in the past, I tend to believe him. If this doesn't violate any legal rules, and I would turn to my colleague for that, I think it's fine to do it this way, even if we're violating the way we've done it historically, because I don't believe that this is actually a violation of any firm parliamentary procedure. It would simply be a violation of our custom, and I know sometimes custom has more strength than law, but honestly, if it's just violating our custom, then I think we can still do it if we want to.
Mr. Holly, do you have anything to add?
I was just, I'm not aware of anything that would prohibit the board doing it this way, but I would concur with both of them as far as references to how it's been done historically. Of course, that doesn't bind the board. If the board chooses to approve it this way, I don't see any issue with that. Obviously, it's the board acting as a whole and lending their approval to something. So I think it's an okay, it's a permissible way to go. But again, I don't know that I recall it being done this way in the past. But again, that's a decision of the board.
Can we have some research before final budget can you, Mr. Holly, take a look at that so we can research it before?
Yeah, I certainly will do that. Like I said, I've had some conversations already with a few of my fellow board members about it and with the chairman. I definitely will talk with Mr. Holly further about it.
Okay. Mr. Goddard?
What line item is that, are those new positions under?
It would be in the Department of Finance, which is on page 78. The position would be the Assistant Finance Manager would be found in line 100-613-5002, and there would be a slight increase in the line 100-613-5001 in order to reflect the change to be an Assistant County Administrator.
Mr. Goddard, go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to amend the budget and remove those until we can vote on those positions being added.
Second.
It's moved and seconded by Mr. Crawford. I haven't missed you yet. Mary, I can discussion on the motion. Go ahead.
Yeah, that motion is another budget, isn't it?
Well, I'm okay with that. They're all combined. It's all part of the general fund. I don't have a problem with that. If I got good ground, Mr. Atkins.
Again, although historically we've handled them all separately, I don't think that there is a mandate, since they're all general fund budgets, that they be handled separately. I think we can do a single vote on all of them if we choose to do that.
Okay. Other questions about the amendment? Mr. Crawford?
This will be the last time I speak on this. I concur, just so that everybody on the board knows, I concur with Mr. Atkins about Robert's Rules of Order. That's not where my objection lies. The reason it's not just the fact that we've always done it that way, because I'm a big firm believer if you've always done it the wrong way, you should stop doing it. But the reason we've done it that way is it preserves the integrity of the committee system and the full county board authority. anybody, any administrator, any staff member can start sticking stuff in budgets without your knowledge. The way it works is that the committee has to go on record by majority vote, and then the board needs to go on record, and then we take the necessary budget procedure or budget math, if you will, as a result of that, and we put it in here. If you start playing with that, who knows what's in your damn budget book? Please don't do that. Thank you.
Very good.
Support this motion.
Thank you for allowing me to speak to the board members and the chairman. This is exactly what I've been talking about. We are letting government grow instead of letting the elected officials do their job. I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk. I have eliminated a full-time position. I've eliminated a full-time, part-time position in my office. Eliminating the first full-time position was over $100,000 I saved this county. But yet, we are letting the administration grow theirs with just these two positions. It's over $103,000 just for those two people. Hold the line. Make all the elected officials do what they are elected to do by you, the voters. Stop growing government. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. I'm going to bring this back in to just kind of get us back on track. Mr. Goddard, I'm going to hold your motion just for a second until we get to that particular budget. We're talking about budget administration only. What we've been discussing isn't in that budget. So I'm going to call us back and we're going to talk about administration budget only. Is there any discussion about that particular budget? That's budget number 610, starting on page 71. Mr. Chair.
It's the IT support. I thought, has that gone through committee?
That's a 611, right?
Yes, and thank you. That was another item I was going to mention. The other position that was added would be in 611.
Let's
All right, it's a different budget.
different budget. Let's stick with 610 to make this less complicated than it needs to be. Any questions on 610? We will come back and do contingency once we get everything done in the general fund. Ms. Pratt.
I'm curious about the new accounting system part of the budget. Where is that located? I mean, a suggestion for me, possibly in the.
That would be in the IT, which would be the next department.
Not this one. I hadn't found it yet. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about 610? Okay, moving on to information technology, that's 611, begins on page 74. That's where somebody was asking about adding the network administrator and the IT tech. Some of those is moved from the administration. There's been some combination. We've moved some things out of administration, 610 to 611, correct?
That is correct. The expenses in this year, FY22's budget, had the personnel numbers had budgeted in 610, and the commodities and contractuals had been budgeted in the other funds, the 611, 612, 613, 614. For this budget, I split it out and just broke them out separately so that both the salaries and the commodities and contractuals are included in both. In this fund, we're adding a second network administrator. Currently, we have 2 people in our IT department, one person that primarily does the help desk support calling, and a second one that is a network administrator. That is proven to be very low and has been very challenging for our network administrator to be able to take care of the network and the security of the courthouse. So this would request adding one additional network administrator position to our IT team. Thank you. Yes, it also includes on page 75 the software for the ERP system. We've done analysis and working with the auditor, Brett Grimm, but we feel that it would be best to look at what other options we have as far as financial systems. There's some components that are lacking for us in this existing system, and the going out for RFP would at least let us see what else we could obtain, see if there's something that would be able to better suit our needs.
This budget also has the website redesign, $150,000 for that as well. Ms. Pratt.
So then the question is, this is suggesting with that $1 million that we might be purchasing a new software system for the accounting after we did the other one a couple years ago. This would be a replacement for whatever it was called.
Right.
Not sure I can support that.
Neither am I. Neither am I.
Yeah, I had a similar comment. This seems like a really bloated budget. Is this under your office?
The IT budget is under my control, that is correct. That is where we chose to put the funding. If the board chose to go through with it, then we would go through the finance committee or executive committee to then get authorization for going out for bids, and then once we receive the bids back, that would also come back to committee for recommendation. I would say that having a financial system for the size county we are, that it would be a substantial upfront cost. I know it looks like a big number, unfortunately that is the software world. To have something for the size of our organization, a $92 million organization, to have a software that can best suit our needs, we would likely be looking around that range.
Just comment.
Has anybody asked our elected officials about this? Can they speak on this? Are they here to speak on this?
I'd love to.
Madam Treasurer, go ahead.
I would love to. We have had this in place for just a little over a year. And yes, it was very difficult. It is a hard system to learn. But if I hate to call someone out, but I'm going to call them out. If our previous finance director would have allowed us all to have the information, I think it would have moved this county forward a lot quicker than it did. My new chief, which is now going to be your new treasurer, absolutely loves the system. She would love to be teaching more and more people. I think we need to give it a little bit more of a try, a little bit more of a chance. And then if it just doesn't work with everybody having all the information instead of just bits and pieces of, I'm only going to allow you to see this and I'm only going to allow you to see that, I think you'd have a different opinion on it. Thank you.
So is it our auditor? He's not here tonight?
No, not our auditor, previous finance.
I understand that, but he's
But
not.
our auditor is a proponent of the new system, a new system. And I think there are several other county officials that are as well.
So according to this, then, we're kind of putting like we were doing with the positions and putting money in there, we're putting the cart before the horse or whatever the case is. You know, I don't know how many millions we spent on this other thing here, but I tell you what, this is a hard pill to swallow. I don't agree with this at all. I don't know if we need to make an amendment or whatever, but I just don't agree.
Sheriff, you have a comment?
I do. I've been doing the sheriff's office budget since 2009, and we'd like to point out it's one of the biggest budgets in the county. I have never had an issue knowing exactly where every penny is in our budget until this past year, until we went to this software system. It is horrible. It is terrible. You can't find anything. I don't know what's going on in my budget, honestly. With this system, it is, I used to do it all myself. Right now, I have 3 people that have to try and manage this budget. We use our own system. We use QuickBooks just so we can manage and figure out where it's at. We've caught a lot of mistakes. And this system is, it may be a very good system, and maybe I'm just not educated enough to use it, but I can't drill down into any of the lines to tell what's been paid, what's not been paid. There have been so many things created since the last year that I have no idea how to use. So you're giving me a tool that I can't use. I could go right back in the box and tell you every penny that was in every budget that I ever did. But in this one, it's guesswork.
I appreciate that.
Mr. Crawford, you.
No, we're in a pickle. I was opposed to the software system we got a couple of years ago. I think I voted no. I can tell you for sure I would have voted no if somebody would have said, by the way, in a couple of years we're going to put another $1 million in there to change everything we just did. And I hear that sentiment strongly on this board. I've said it once before, this is the last time I'll say it, but I've been through this at Caterpillar, I've been through it here. When you have an organization that has a pretty good structure, and you go to software eyes, I just made that word up, what you're doing, you want to make sure that if your structure's good, that software serves you rather than you serve the software, which means that those people that were working with us needed to amend their software so that not only Mr. Lauer, but all users at a minimum stayed the same in terms of their ability to manage their budgets, but probably that grew in their ability. We didn't do that. We threw everything out. We threw the chart of accounts of Tazewell County out, which is how you determine what line items are, for God's sakes. And when I questioned the people on it, they said, well, it just won't work with the new system. Well, that system wasn't good for Tazewell County. So, now having said that, do I want to spend $1 million here? No. But I'll end where I started. We're in a pickle.
Well, I think we all kind of recognize where the problem began and the problems we were left with at a certain period of time. We made a commitment to a program. We spent a lot of money on it. We invited our staff to be a part of that and work hard, and they did, trying to adapt to it. I'm not in favor of spending $1 million just because it doesn't work today, but I understand the staff's problem with the fact that it doesn't work today. I know Mindy could maybe speak on some of that, because I think some of it had to do with the training that people needed, and I think there's a challenge trying to get some of that done, but there's a project working on that. Are we on a time frame with this whole project? I mean, I know you'd like to make the staff happy, Mike, but what's the time frame on all of this?
Sure. The first is bringing up this discussion to see if this is something the board is on board with. It's certainly the feelings across the organization, most of the feelings would be echoing what I've heard from Jeff during the process of trying to use the system. The timeline would be, now if the board were to approve this, then we would work on the RFP, and so that would take some substantial time. Done some preliminary legwork getting a sample RFP together. But we would go through that process, look at our needs as an organization, as a team, and once we have the specs together, then we would go out for bid. So it would be just a matter of how quickly we could focus our time and energies on the RFP process.
Mr. Harris. And Ms. Connell.
We have other electeds in here. Amy, or she's appointed, but she runs the health department. Do you use this system?
Yes.
Be honest, I know. Please.
We use it for many, many years.
This new one?
Yes.
software, it's always a, yeah. Right, you got the,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
No treasurer?
Maybe I didn't quite, explain everything right. Jeff was right, Blake is right. When you have one person that is entering everything and they are not quite sure if they're coding it right, your reports are not gonna come out right. But if we all had training instead of picking and choosing who got the training, I think you would, appreciate it more. Amy's right. Give it a chance. If it's not gonna work, I understand, but, it is a good system. If we all have the right training and we are not locked out of the system.
Mr. Sim?
And first of all, I knew the health department did use this for several years. I'm glad you asked Amy to speak towards it. But the second thing is, I guess I'm struggling with what we're doing tonight. You know, we're putting in budgets to buy a truck. We're putting in budgets to do this. We're not buying the trucks tonight. Now all of a sudden we're trying to make decisions. If we're gonna make, if we're gonna make these decisions in 2023, we need money in the budget to make the decision. We haven't made the decision yet. We just put money in. We put money in to buy air conditioners. We put money in to buy a truck for the highway department, but we haven't done that yet. But what we're doing tonight is allowing that process to happen if it does happen. So I guess I feel we're kind of, somebody say we're getting the cart before the horse, but if we don't have money, we can't do it next year. So I guess I'm struggling with what we're doing tonight.
As am I. Mr. Clerk, you have a comment as an elected official.
Well, I was just gonna point out, if you are going to go in a different direction, I wish you would let us know soon, because payroll has not converted into the new software yet. We are still on the old software. We will begin converting payroll shortly, which means that the payroll department will be having to train all on the new system. So, your clock has quickly been running down on this. Something I think Mr. Grimm has brought up to you is that the clock is ticking away quickly on, once payroll's in and you've wasted the time having payroll department take over into the new system, why would you quickly move them? Because you've invested all my staff's time in training. We currently are training 2 employees in there, trying to get them up to speed on the old system first to convert to the new. Then we're gonna be doing a month, 2 months of payroll both in the old system and the new to make sure that both of them are reporting accurately. Then we'll be converting to the new. You're asking for a sizable investment of time if you're going to be making a decision in the near future not to do this. I'm not saying I disagree with looking for new software, but make your decision soon so that I can stop my payroll from moving into the new software and wasting all my training time. And I know Mr. Grimm has brought this to your guys' attention a couple times, and it just hasn't gone anywhere. I know it's a shocker that it's in there in the amount, but it has been a discussion that's been taking place. I don't know why you're here tonight either with this, but.
The final comment I'd like to make about these discussions, we've talked about several of these. I'm of the same opinion as Mr. Sin. The budget is a planning document. We don't plan for it, we can't do it. It's as simple as that. I'm personally, as I'm sitting here right now, if we had this $1 million software purchase in front of me, I would vote no. Because I don't think the current software has been properly vetted for a number of reasons beyond anyone's control that's sitting in this room. Things happened, people left, and we were left in the lurch. That just happened. If we don't plan ahead, we're going to be limited to doing this a year from now when we decide, oh, this is a good idea, wish we'd have done it last year. So, while I'm not in favor of spending $1 million on a new software system, I'm kind of in favor of putting in the budget so it gives us some options April, May, and June when we start talking about that, as I am with the addition of the personnel. Not saying we're going to hire them tonight, probably wouldn't vote to hire them tonight, but we need to do a study of them to see if it's where we want to go, and if it is, we have it in place to do it. If it's not, then we don't do it. Go ahead, Nadine.
and I'm new at this, so I'm not gonna do it right. I do have a question, okay? I understand that we want it for the future and that it's in place. But then why did we take money away from the clerk if it's just to be there in case it's needed? I mean, when I had my budget, I had a budget, it didn't mean that I spent every dime of it, because I never did. But I knew that money was in the line item at the time. So why are we decreasing some departments, but yet we're gonna plan for the future here? That's my question.
It's a great comment, but I don't know who's going to answer that question. Because I want to know. Now you're talking about. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Lori, I'm the court administrator, and I just wanted to say whether it means anything or not, that I feel like the Avella system, the accounting system, we were not trained on it, and how can any of us learn anything if we don't have proper training? I came to one training meeting, and it was so fast, and there were people there that had never even logged into the system. They didn't even have that done, and it was going bam, 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 bam. That's not training, you know. Sometimes you just have to have people that come and work with you. Like when Lee got Odyssey and everything, we had people that actually came down to our offices and worked with us and helped us through these different things that each department needs help with. Not everybody has the same needs out of the program. And to me, you know, if we don't have proper training, how in the world can we say that we use the software correctly? I mean, it could very well be a wonderful system and everything. We just don't know how to use it. So, I mean, I've fumbled through it to get the budget done and everything, but that's just my view.
Go ahead. Keep it brief, Robert.
All these department heads and county officers are sharing their pain, and I couldn't agree more. Danny is a quiet man, but I can tell you that those of us on the transportation committee hear Jesse, who runs our financial systems, complain about the system every single time. In fact, they've had to create their own templates, Jeff, in order to figure out what I was going to call it damn system, but I hate to say that in public, but what the damn system doesn't do that it should do that we were promised that it'll do. So, you've almost convinced me, Mr. Chairman, to leave that ungodly amount of money in the budget, but boy, I sure hope if we do that we go about it the right way, which is not what we did last time.
All I can say, Mr. Crawford, if we leave the money in the budget, you'll get a chance to vote on that expenditure sometime down the road. Ms. Pratt.
Yeah, I would support that. Let's leave it in the budget. We can work on this another night. We have other projects to discuss in the budget. That one we can leave to another day to work on.
Is there anyone making a motion to change anything in 611? Moving on to 612, human resources. We got a motion to amend. Mr. Goddard, do you still want to discuss that motion? So it was moved and seconded at the time. Do you have those?
I do. Can you put it on hold and bring it back up?
We'll bring it back up.
So the motion was by Goddard and the second by Crawford.
And that? Yeah, HR 612 is what we're at now. I'm sorry, I didn't tell you where we're going. 612 on page 76 and 78, 378. And this was to remove the two positions, if I remember correctly? Okay, so this is remove one position out of. Okay, I'm sorry.
You're thinking of the next.
I'm thinking of the next budget, sorry. There's no changes to be made in this budget. Mrs. Conlon? Yeah, I got it. And that's the problem we've had tonight. We've separated out these budgets and created different, these all used to be 610. Any changes to 612? 613 finance. There's been a motion made to amend to cut 2 positions, and we need a dollar amount to do that.
If I recall correctly, you said 75,000 from 502, 5002, from 5001, there would have to be an adjustment made as well, did it not?
Yes, I believe roughly 10,000, based on my recollection.
So 10,000 of that, 75,000 from item,
5001.
okay.
So 10,000 from there and then 75,000 from 5002, if I understood the motion correctly.
But the,
Cool.
My motion is to remove the 2 positions that were not voted on.
I understand what your motion is. I'm trying to figure out how to make it work.
I would say one thing, there isn't 2 new positions in the finance department. There would be only the addition of 1 assistant position. The other change was mentioned would be to have the finance director become the title of assistant county administrator / finance director. The goal would be for the finance director, that position, to maintain the same oversight of overseeing the budget process, the audit process, the conducting all the bidding process, as well as managing the accounts payable process. What this would do would be to give that person more authority to assist me in administrative functions of the office. And so it wouldn't be, that isn't the new position, that is the finance director position that has been in the budget. The new position would be the manager position that's listed in there. And so that would then be to allow the assistant county administrator, finance director to be able to assist and take on some of those extra duties so that she would then, or that person would then have the additional time to help me. It would also help us with being able to have better financial reporting and tracking. I feel that getting more reports to the committees would certainly been advantageous for you to have updated information on the total budget from within the county. There's certainly other areas too. There are audits. You get reports each year. There are significant audit adjustments that need to be made within the budget, so we strive to reduce that as much as possible. We have our chart of accounts more on a cash basis, and then the auditors then come in and recommend adjusting journal entries to make it on a accrual basis. So we use this position a number of ways in order to assist and better track our financial organization. What would I do? I would continue to do all the things I do on a full-time basis. So that's managing the day-to-day operations of the organization. I serve as the manager for 8 direct reports myself, also the contact for the 7 elected officials throughout the county, the appointed officials such as Dan and Amy, for individuals throughout the community as far as the city managers, the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council. I assist in providing the resolutions and direction and researching items for the board. So I would continue doing much of what I would do, just a portion of that time would be able to be assisted through the assistant county administrator, and it would also allow for some continuity if there is a changeover. When I came in, there was certainly a large backload of projects and different items to address. Take the salary study as an example. That the study was given in January, right before there was turnover, and it basically had to sit for a long time. When I came on board, I tried to do as much as I could, but the budget had to take priority to make sure that the board did have a budget, and so a lot of my time was on helping as much as possible get the budget ready. And so now we're just now getting to the point where we're addressing the study that we got in January. So it would very much help when we have those projects and different items to address to be able to do it in a more timely manner.
So we're back to, we're not going to actually have these positions voted on tonight, it's just the money to have it there in case we do.
Right.
So, thank you.
Mr. Harris?
And that was a point I was gonna make. If we don't put the money in there, then it's the next year's budget.
Right.
You're
No.
right.
No. No.
Did I misunderstand? Say your question again.
If we don't put the money in the budget, on final budget, and then 2 months later decide that we need the positions and it goes through committee and approved, it has to wait till next year's budget.
That would be correct, right?
No.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, if I'm Mike, the other Mike, what I'm gonna do is, not even request this tonight. I'm gonna make the case he just made, which is the wrong venue, to the appropriate committee, sell them on it. They're gonna make the, motion to the county board, November 16th at the beginning, like you ran one today. And then in final budget, we're gonna put that money in there and do it if he makes the case to the committee and the board. If he doesn't make the case, then that money won't go in there. That's the way things are always worked, and that's the way they should work. So it's not no, it's just timing.
Yeah, and we don't have time.
Yeah, we do. I just explained
In
how that works.
November, you're saying? Do it in November?
So, yeah, well, actually less than that, because, HR meets next week.
Right.
Next Tuesday. Mr. Mayor, I'll get back to you. I have a question, Mr. Atkins, a parliamentary question. I want to honor the motion that was been made by Mr. Goddard and seconded by Mr. Crawford, but I don't believe we have a dollar amount to figure that out. Can I do a straw poll to see if that motion would survive a vote?
At this point, you have a motion pending, and it needs to be voted on.
But I don't have a proper motion that meets the standard that Mr. Crawford said earlier.
And I believe that the proper way to handle that is to address with the movement in the second what dollar figure they would like to put in. If they cannot come up with a dollar figure and we don't have the dollar figure available, then I think you don't actually have a motion that's properly presented. Because it does have to be a motion for a particular dollar amount.
Mr. Goddard, do you have a particular dollar amount?
We're looking at the completely new position, correct? And then how did you explain it's a raise, it's a,
Correct. We're assuming that the assistant county administrator would have a higher grade, there's percentage increases for that, and that's where I said it would be roughly 10,000 from line 100,613,5001.
Go ahead.
Michael, I thought I heard you say, I don't know, when we talked about this 20 minutes ago, that it was 10,000 from that line and 75 from the other line, total of 85.
But you also got FICA taxes, you've got.
Yeah, so it's a swag. Just give us your best total swag, Michael. And again, it doesn't mean we're not gonna do this next month. It just means we're not gonna put it in here.
Sure, I can try, if the positions aren't there, then functionally, even if the IRMRF and Social Security was budgeted, there just wouldn't be an expense, there would just be added cost in there, so there would be less harm, but I can certainly do my best to try to break down what the cost would be. So the FICA Social Security, which is in line 5070, would be roughly a $6,502 reduction, if I have that correct.
What was the amount?
$503. And if memory serves, our IRMF rate was 7.11. So about the same, $6,043.50.
Mr. Crawford, do you agree with that amount, $97,000?
Yes.
There's been a motion made and seconded that we reduce the 613 finance, those two lines we talked about by 97,000. 97,000. Any discussion on the amendment, Mr. Agnes?
I was just telling Max that because I sometimes have a tendency to support both sides, I probably make both sides angry at me rather than actually getting any kind of support. I personally, I support the idea that Mike has regarding the assistant county administrator position. I'm still not sure with regards to any other things that he's looking at doing, but definitely with regard to assistant county administrator, I'm in favor of that. At the same time, when I hear from Mr. Crawford that the way we're approaching this is not the way that we have approached this in the past, I'm troubled by that. So I intend to support this particular motion because I would like to see us continuing to do things the way we've done them unless we have a reason for doing them differently, and I don't see a good reason for doing this any differently. So on the procedural issue, I'm planning on voting in favor of this particular amendment, although substantively, at least with regards to the assistant county administrator position, I actually am in favor of it.
Mr. Harris?
Can that go before HR and all the committees this month and get the full board next month? We have to write the job descriptions and on and on and on.
Yeah, so timing wise, and so by no means did I mean to break protocol within the organization. You know, every organization is different, and as I mentioned, getting the budget prepared and helping with the other projects have been the primary focus, and so that's where I wouldn't hire anyone that you wouldn't want me to hire. And so this, in my view, was putting the funding there so that when I did have time to write the job descriptions, I would take them to HR committee and we would follow the normal protocol. If there's the desire to do it beforehand, I would certainly try. Doing it by Tuesday would be a bit of a challenge. I would certainly do what I could, but with some of the other items we're trying to get ready for the budget, it may be a bit of a stretch. 10 to the board could be a little more realistic. That's the reason why I put the money for you, and then the goal would be to take it to HR committee after the fact, so that it certainly wouldn't hire anyone unless it's gone through committee.
Mr. Sim?
I feel we're trying to rush something that needs more vetting than just a quick week to do it and stuff like that. I'd be against the amendment to allow it to happen when we vet it properly.
Mr. Hall?
I just read back the minutes you gave the job description earlier.
Kim?
I guess I'm struggling with why is this any different than what we just discussed on the accounting software. Russ, I'm just putting it in, having it there if we so choose to move forward.
So am I. I'm treasurer.
Thank you once again, but I want to challenge each and every one of you board members. Do we really need a manager to sit down and supervise two employees? That I want to challenge you to go to these elected officials' offices and see if that work can be filtered into one of their offices, instead of having a new supervisor sitting down there with growing government even larger and larger. Let the elected officials do their job.
Mr. Harris?
She's challenging, so I'll challenge back. I think she has 3 or 4 supervisors in her office with 6 people.
I don't think we need to go there. Is there any other discussion on the motion to amend? I'm getting ready to do that. The amendment is to reduce this budget by $97,000, essentially eliminating these 2 positions.
I just want to point out that we're setting the budget. We're going to base the taxes for the taxpayers off of this budget, correct? Okay, so if we pass the budget, the taxpayers foot the bill. Just keep that in mind.
Any other discussion? Russ, can I do a voice vote or?
Yes, voice vote's fine.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Raise, do a roll call, please.
Thank you. Paul Peter?
Aye.
Atkins?
Aye.
Connick?
No.
Crawford?
Aye.
Goddard?
Aye.
Graff?
No.
Hagman?
I'm sorry, what's I mean?
I means you would cut it, no means you
Oh,
don't.
we're taking it out, yes, I.
Hall? Harris?
No.
Emig?
Aye.
Josting?
No.
Crable? Longfellow? Minold?
No.
Mingus? Creel?
No.
Rich Simpson?
No.
Schneider?
No.
Scortino? Sin?
No.
Smith?
Aye.
Eight yes, nine no.
Motion fails. Any other discussion on, I don't even remember where we're at. Finance, thank you, 613. Moving on to 614, county audit. County audit is, we will be making a change to that because of the increased audit, both on line 5247, external audit, and 5248, the single audit. And that's because our auditor has told us the price is going to increase. Any questions on county audit? 614. Okay, moving on then to farm, 615. And that's on page 81. Moving on to assessments, 82 and 83. Border review, 84 and 85. Capital plan, number 86. We don't vote on that, do we? The capital plan's just in there so you know what the capital plans are. I'm sorry. Moving on to 630, building administration. $631, Justice Center, page 9091. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. We need to go back to building administration. I forgot. I missed the. We are on building administration, line number 5530, building improvements. We are adding $419,315 to that's resurfacing the parking lot behind the Tazewell building.
That's correct. That project was budgeted in this year, and unfortunately, we weren't able to get that done before the end of the season, so it would be transferring the funds from this fiscal year to next fiscal year. The other item is the technology upgrade for the courthouse. The courts have gotten a $220,000 grant for increased technology, and that included the equipment, installation of the equipment. However, it didn't include a lot of the electrical line drops. So that total cost is also requested for $19,315, so that the equipment can be fully installed.
I just had a question about the resurfacing of the parking lot. Is this the same parking lot that we're talking about putting the health department building on? No. Which one is this then? The one, because there's the one directly behind the Tazewell building right in front of it, and then there's one to the right of it, I guess, if you're standing in the Tazewell building. And so the Tazewell, that parking lot would be used for parking for this building that we're thinking about building, correct? No. This is, okay.
The building we're thinking about building is on the south side of St. Mary's, no,
Okay.
Elizabeth Street, excuse me.
Okay,
This parking lot is on the north side.
got it, thank you.
That's correct. And the city also plans to redo the alleyway at the same time.
Okay. Anything else on building administration? And then moving on to Justice Center. Okay, I'm going to call to your attention sheet T1, and I would like to get a motion to approve the items. You get the sheet, Joe? Okay. So, no. So I need to get a motion to amend the budgets for the circuit clerk, public defender, courts, sheriff's office, EMA, county clerk, skip county administration, finance, external audit, and building administration. Can I get a motion to get those approved by Atkins? Is there a second? Harris, discussion.
I've revised the contingency with the amount that was changed earlier.
I'll come back to
Okay.
it. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So what is the new general fund total and the contingency line?
The total general fund total would be $38,187,336. That would put the contingency line at $1,818,445.
Okay. So we haven't talked about that. The contingency line is 5%, right?
That is correct.
So can I get a motion to approve the line 100,610,599, that's contingency fund for the general, at the amount of $1,818,545?
That sounds correct. $1,818,445.
445, sorry. Second. Comment and pray on comment. Do we want to leave that at 5%? We've had it at 5% forever. We've always been of the opinion we know if we're going to have, if something bad happens, we're going to take it out of savings to do it. Mr. Goddard makes a good point when we levy for this. Do we want to levy $1.8 billion for emergencies? Mr. Ackman.
I discussed this with our administrator previously, and I know it's, I think I was the one who said it's just the attorney in me that made me come up with this idea, but I think that the projection we were looking at earlier tonight that was fairly level, I think that if we really expect that things are going to be like that, then lowering the contingency to 4 or even 3% would make sense. Until we have projections that give us some worst case scenarios that are more a realistic assessment of what kind of losses we might see, I can't say that any particular amount is appropriate, whether 4 or 5 or 6 or 1. So again, like earlier tonight, I'm going to propose that until we have a good basis for doing things differently than how we've done them previously, that we don't change it. That being said, I really want to see projections that aren't just what if things stay relatively the same. I want to see projections. What are we going to have to deal with if we have suddenly a 2 or 3% increase in our costs for a year, or if we have a corresponding decrease in our revenue? you know, we can fairly well control our property tax revenue, but other revenues that, maybe the state has some involvement in, well, we rely on them to be honest and fair in what they give to us, and this is Illinois.
Mr. Harris?
A question, what fund, or, what, accounts in the general fund are levy funds?
Who's answering that?
It's the general fund overall, so it not broken out necessarily to a specific fund, but when we levy the tax, it's getting levied on the general fund in total. The tax, when we certify the county clerk, it's not breaking it down, it's just doing the total.
Just the dollar amount needed?
Correct.
Most likely with the Patel or whatever you call it, tax cap, so they were probably going to max it out. And all we're talking about now is fund balance. So we're gonna levy the same amount, most likely for this account. It's just how much balance we're gonna have. So when we're talking about levy, we're still gonna levy what we're going to. So I would strongly doubt that number's gonna change, but our fund balance would change by how we spend. So I guess I don't see us, when we're talking about levy dollars, we're still gonna probably levy the same amount.
Any other questions, Mr. Harris?
I agree, I heard, I was called on the cemetery that the levies are taking the max on PTO this year. So I agree with Greg.
So the motion on the floor is to amend the contingency line to $1,818,445. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So that gives us a final general fund budget amount of $38,187,336.
That's correct.
Motion's been amended, it's on the floor. Any further discussion on general fund?
Peter.
Aye.
Atkins.
Aye.
Conant.
Aye.
Crawford. Goddard.
I abstain, I wasn't here for most of this resolution.
Graff.
Yes.
Hagman.
Yes.
Paul.
Aye.
Harris. Emmett.
Yes.
Justin.
Yes.
Crable. Longfellow. Mennel.
Yes.
Mingus. Trail.
Yes.
Rich Simpson.
Yes.
Snyder.
Yes.
Scortino. Sen.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Zimmerman.
Okay, Mr. Harris, with your permission, can we take a 10-minute recess? Till, let's make it 8:25. The rest of this should go quicker, I hope. Yeah.
How's it going? years, and they had World War I.
Seems like a great candidate to get. Yeah, very cool. I didn't know all that. I didn't know they did that. Oh, I didn't apply this year, so I know it has changed. Yeah.
Can I get everyone to take their seats so we can get started?
We had one jump bench at the organization meeting.
Mr. Harris, can you make a proclamation, please? Can you tell us we're back in session? At 8:25, can you, Mr. Clerk, can you verify we still have a quorum?
Yep, and,
Are you cold, Nancy? I know, I think they want us out of here because they turned the heat off.
yeah, Peter?
I think the sheriff just,
Point of order, what is present?
I just asked me if we could clarify we still have a quorum.
Okay, all right.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I thought we were having a vote on something.
Sure, we're voting whether to keep you on board.
All Peter? I think I heard yes. All Peter?
You just walked up the door.
I'll put an absent for now and lock them up. Atkins?
Here.
Connett? Crawford?
Here.
Goddard? Here. Graff?
Here.
Hagman?
Here.
Hall?
Here.
Harris?
Here.
Emig?
Here.
Josting?
Here.
Crable? Longfellow? Mennel?
Here.
Mingus? Trail?
Here.
Rich Simpson?
Here.
Schneider?
Here.
Scortino? Sin?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
Chairman Zimmerman, you still have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, moving on then
And
to,
all Peter's in here now too.
moving on to the special revenue funds. Start off on page 95 for IMRF. Can I get a motion to get that on the floor? Mr. Harris, Rich Simpson, is there any discussion on this budget? Hearing none, call roll. Do they have to be roll call or? It has to be roll call?
Oh, it does. Oh, I'm sorry. All Peter? Aye. Atkins?
Aye.
Connett?
Aye.
Crawford?
Aye.
Goddard?
Aye.
Graff?
Aye.
Hagman? Hall? Harris? Emig?
Here.
Josting? Crable? Longfellow? Mennel?
Yes.
Mingus? Trail?
Yes.
Rich Simpson?
Aye. Yep.
Schneider?
Aye.
Scortino? Sin?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Chairman Zimmerman.
Okay, motion carried. Can I get a motion to get item, 201, Social Security on Atkins, Crawford, in discussion? 98, 100. Sorry. Any discussion? Call roll.
Altpeter,
Aye.
Atkins,
Aye.
Conitt,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Goddard,
Aye.
Graff,
Aye.
Hageman,
Aye.
Hall,
Aye.
Harris,
Aye.
Emig,
Yes.
Josting,
Aye.
Crable, Longfellow, Mennel,
Yes.
Mingus, Frail,
Yes.
Rich Simpson,
Yes.
Snyder,
Aye.
Scortino, Sin,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Zimmerman. Yeah, Atkins and Crawford.
I was, I'm lying. Can I get a motion to get Health and General Services, Fund 202 on the floor? Hemming, Atkins, during discussion, it's pages 101 to 103.
What, no. Even though you're a traitor.
Altpeter, Atkins,
Aye.
Conitt, Crawford, Goddard, Graff, Hagman, Hall, Harris, Emig, Josting, Crable, Longfellow, Mennel,
Yes.
Mingus, Frail,
Yes.
Rich Simpson,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Scortino, Sin,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Zimmerman.
I have a question.
Yes.
Just procedure, and I don't care how it goes. In the past, we rotated down the,
Right.
is that procedure or?
That's in the, actually, it's in the county ordinance. You should be doing that.
Yes, we should.
You should be doing that. So start with the next one. Well, they've all been yes, so it's nothing. Yeah, but it's, yeah, but you are correct. What did we just do? Health and Urban. Okay, we're moving on to 210, Township Bridge, 104 to 106. Can I get a motion to get that on the floor? Mental, comment, discussion? Call roll.
Atkins,
Aye.
Conitt,
Aye.
Crawford, Goddard, Graff, Hagman, Hall, Harris, Emig,
Aye.
Josting, Crable, Longfellow, Mennel,
Yes.
Mingus, Frail, Rich Simpson, Schneider,
Aye.
Scortino, Sin,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Zimmerman.
Moving on to County Highway 211, that's page 107 to 115. Can you get a motion to get that on the floor? All Peter, Rich Simpson.
They left me off on the last.
Oh, you didn't call him.
Altpeter,
Yes.
thank you. Altpeter and for the motion with
Rich Simpson. So on County Highway's a big one, obviously. Are there any questions? Can't let you off that easy. He's hiding back there. Hearing no discussion, call roll.
Conitt, Crawford, Goddard, Graff, Hagman, Hall, Harris, Emig, Josting, Crable, Longfellow, Mennel,
Yes.
Mingus, Frail,
Yes.
Rich Simpson,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Scortino, Sin,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Zimmerman. Altpeter,
Yes.
Atkins.
Aye.
County motor fuel tax, item 212 on pages 116 to 119. Can I get a motion? Conitt, Crawford. Discuss, yes, go ahead.
Under expenditures, I've gotten an explanation from Mr. Parr on the $1.5 million for the salt dome. Okay, for expenditures. I guess what I gathered is between insurance and probably in a bid that's not gonna be 1.5 to begin with, probably the net's only gonna be a couple, $200,000-300,000. So, the question, some of the discussion was, they may have to front a bunch of the money in order to get it built, so it gets past a certain point in time to get it, so okay, fine on that part. But I guess my question is, will the insurance money go towards motor fuel tax, go back into motor fuel tax fund is one, and two, I'm comfortable with the 4.9 million going to the roads, but I think that I'm not comfortable with the fund balance if we spend the full I guess I'd be nervous if supposedly they can just transfer the rest of that 1.5 that's not spent on the salt dome to the roads. I guess I think the 1.5 is too much to be in there, but if we'll leave it there, fine. But I don't want it spent either until so the balance is preserved for the next year. So I guess.
Mark, can you address that, or do you?
Well, my understanding is if we don't use it for the purpose that county motor fuel tax can pay for, we could, if there was another road project or bridge project, and we submitted a proper resolution to the transportation committee, it could come to the full board. This $1.5 million is worst case scenario. I tried to consider what exactly what was going to happen. I didn't have a crystal ball, so I thought, well, worst case, if we don't get the insurance money in a timely fashion, and yet we've got a contractor and they're constructing the thing, I wanted to have the money available. The estimate from the design firm, I have yet to see a finished set of plans that consider the new dome, the site work, possible utility relocations that may be necessary, some parking lot work that we're going to have to change in order for the tractor trailers to get in there and dump the salt in the structure. So there's several unknowns, and I attempted to plan for that.
I realize the unknowns, but I don't want to have him to be able to transfer that funds into an appropriate. I guess I'd sooner that wait till 2023. Because I think the 37.31% with all that spent is too low. I'd like to at least preserve a little higher balance in that fund. So net, they're only going to probably spend 300,000 of that 1.5 on the salt dome. There could be some questions. There are some problems that may bump that up a little higher, but I think everybody can agree there's $1 million too much in the budget for the salt dome. Now, I didn't want that spent for something else. So.
Mr. Manuel, do you have any comments on that?
Well, I think to spend it on something else, it's got to go through the regular channels. You can't just go and spend it, so I don't see any problem with going ahead with the way it is. I understand what Greg's saying, but I'm fine with leaving it the way it is.
Mr. Crawford?
I'm also considerate of Greg's point of view. What I can say in addition to what Dan and Greg said is that this is not your grandfather's salt dome. This has got all kinds of bells and whistles, Greg. It's safer, it's bigger, there's no door on it. It's made to withstand the elements. It allows trucks to come in and offload in a way that no other salt dome allowed. And so it's going to be a lot more expensive. I don't say it's going to be $1 million, but it's going to be more than what we are used to spending for salt domes.
For those that don't know, we're talking about the salt dome on Tremont campus that was destroyed this summer. Oh, last year, okay. Last year, it was destroyed last year by winds. We have an insurance claim going on. They're in the process of budgeting to rebuild it. That's what we're talking about. Ms. Bennett?
Sorry, I just have to say, with all due respect to Mr. Crawford, it is not bells and whistles. It is probably as basic as you can get. I mean, it's got a concrete foundation, and the top is actually fabric or something. It's a frame with it, but it's bigger, it's easier access. And the location is probably costing that, that's what really is costing above the insurance money. So I don't want everybody to think we're building this fancy thing out there, 'cause it's not.
It's got pictures of minnows all over.
Mr. Sim, go ahead.
So I'm not sure if they were saying they're only gonna spend what they're gonna spend and put the rest towards next year, I'm fine. But what I'm hearing, they wanna spend what's left, and I said, if they're gonna spend what's left, I wanna amend it down to $500,000.
No.
Because that's the difference, is what they say the difference is $200,000, 500 is twice the difference. Otherwise, they're gonna spend an extra $1 million and get the balance down to 37%. At the bottom.
So you wanna make a motion to do that?
Yes.
So that's line, 45530, building, is that the one? And you're wanting to reduce that by,
The 1.5 to 500,000.
so you're running that dock $1 million off.
Yes.
Is there a second to that motion? Sorry. Okay, any other discussion on county motor fuel tax?
Crawford.
Chairman.
Aye.
I had a question, I think I'd like to ask of Mr. Sin. If we could move for 500,000 to be taken off, would you support that? Because I would be willing to second 500,000, not $1 million, being reduced from that.
So your motion is to reduce from 1.5 million to $1 million. And you're seconding that, Mr. Nichols?
I'm seconding that.
Okay, so discussion on the amendment, Ms. Brett.
We hire an engineer, and we have a committee that's gone through all of this. Our engineer has gone through all of the estimates, all of whatever. He feels that for us to be covered, we need this 1.5 in here, because we don't know when the money's gonna come for the insurance. We don't know when all these things are gonna come. And I think Dan, if we know Dan Parr, he does not just throw money in cushy for us to, the whole committee to take a trip or anything with that extra money. So I would certainly support what is already in the report. Thank you, and the budget.
Other discussion?
Good for Nancy.
I just note one item, the insurance, funds that we get would need to go into a revenue line, so the expense account would need to represent the full cost, and then the reimbursement we get from the insurance company would go into a revenue line, so it wouldn't be a direct offset within the expense budget.
Good job. Any other discussion? All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Amendment fails. Any other discussion?
Who was the ayes real quick, just so I can make sure I got it?
The what?
The ayes.
No, sorry.
It's just Greg.
Raise your hand if you don't want your roads taken care of.
Okay, the motion has not been amended. All in favor of the original budget as presented?
Okay.
You have to go roll. We'll take a roll. Sorry.
Crawford.
Aye.
Goddard.
Aye.
Graff.
Aye.
Hagman.
Aye.
Hall.
Aye.
Harris.
Yes.
Hemming.
Yes.
Josting. Crable. Longfellow. Mennel.
Yes.
Mingus. Frail.
Aye.
Rich Simpson.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Scortino. Sen.
Yes.
Smith.
Aye.
Norman Zimmerman. Altpeter. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Conick.
Okay, moving on then to Township Road Fuel Tax Fund number 213 on pages 120 to 122. Can I get a motion to get that on the floor? Mennel, Schneider. Discussion. Hearing none, call roll.
Goddard. Aye. Graff.
Aye.
Hagman. Hall. Harris.
Yes.
Emick.
Yes.
Justin.
Yes.
Crable. Longfellow. Mennel.
Yes.
Mingus. Frail.
Yes.
Rich Simpson.
Aye, yes.
Schneider.
Aye.
Scortino. Sen.
Yes.
Smith.
Aye.
Chairman Zimmerman. Altpeter.
Aye.
Atkins.
Aye.
Conick.
Aye.
Crawford.
Aye. Moving on to item Fund 214, County Bridge, pages 123 to 125. Can I get a motion to get that on the floor? Crawford, Emick. Discussion. Call roll.
Graff.
Yes.
Hagman.
Yes.
Hall.
Aye.
Harris.
Yes.
Emick.
Yes.
Justin.
Yes.
Crable. Longfellow. Mennel.
Yes.
Mingus. Frail.
Yes.
Rich Simpson.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Scortino. Sen.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Zimmerman. Altpeter.
Yes.
Atkins.
Aye.
Conick.
Aye.
Crawford.
Aye.
Goddard.
Aye.
Moving on to matching tax fund 215, pages 126 to 128. Can I get a motion to get that on the floor? Atkins, Schneider. I need a motion to amend this budget. We're back on page T1, about 2/3 of the way to the bottom, matching tax fund. We're having income, a grant revenue of $374,300, and we're increasing the expenditure to cover that grant by $385,000. So it's a slight shortfall, but so the revised amount would be income into the matching tax 215,400, a new account of 374,300, and road improvements 215,455.80 to 1,856,796. Excuse me. Can I get a
So moved on the amendment.
Crawford and Conick? Discussion on the amendment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any further discussion or any discussion on the budget?
Hagman.
Yes.
Hall. Harris.
Yes.
Emick.
Yes.
Justin.
Yes.
Crable. Longfellow. Mennel.
Yes.
Mingus. Frail.
Yes.
Rich Simpson.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Scortino. Sen.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Altpeter. Atkins.
Aye.
Conick.
Aye.
Crawford.
Aye.
Goddard.
Aye.
Graff.
Aye. Okay, moving on, 220 County Health, pages 129 through 145. Miss Amy, thank you for having perseverance to stick with us for so long. I always give you the opportunity to say anything about your budget because you do such a fantastic job, you and your staff. You got us through COVID, and I just can't thank you enough for doing that. Anything you want to make the board aware of in your budget?
The only thing I want to say is, you'll see some changes in percentages of people in different funds. It's just a cost, problem in how we use grants versus county dollars depending on the year and the person. So overall, you can see any big changes in the numbers. It's just how they're allocated out of the separate sub-funds of 220.
Is there any questions for Amy or regarding the budget at all?
Simpson,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Scortino, Sin,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Altpeter,
Yes.
Atkins,
Aye.
Connick,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Goddard,
Aye.
Graff,
Aye.
Hagman.
Moving on to item 321, solid waste planning on pages 146 to 150. Can I get a motion to get that on the floor? With Simpson, Atkins, discussion. It's nice to go last because everybody's worn out.
Thank you for your kind words before I should have said that.
Oh, no problem. Call the roll.
Harris,
Yes.
Hemming,
Yes.
Justin,
Yes.
Crable, Longfellow, Mennel,
Yes.
Mingus, Trail,
Yes.
Rich Simpson,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Scortino, Sin,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Altpeter,
Aye.
Atkins,
Aye.
Connick,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Goddard, Graff,
Aye.
Hagman,
Yes.
Hall.
Moving on to item 230, Veterans Assistance, pages 155 to, 151 to 155. Make a motion to go for Emig, Connick. Can I get a motion to amend the budget, again on sheet T1? Second from the bottom, there are 6 lines that need to be amended.
Motion.
Motion by Crawford, second by Atkins. Do I need to state them, or can they go as recorded?
Are they printed in that?
Yes, they are.
Yes, then you do not.
Discussion on the amendment. All in favor say aye. I'm sorry, Mr. Schneider, go ahead.
Just as a new guy here, what is the contingency of 96,000? What is contingency?
Because this is not part of the general fund, this department has their own contingency fund.
Okay.
And because of these changes, it varied from the 5%, so we had to make a change to that.
Okay, and then regarding the sewer new, is that just, they're just gonna be paying for their own water and sewer at that building, that facility?
Moving locations.
Yeah.
Mr. Saul, you wanna, explain where you're moving to and what's going on?
As you know, we're vacating the arcade building, and we're looking for a place to go. Right now, after talking to various people, there's nowhere to go in the county to be downtown, close to the bus station here in Depot. Most of my veterans can't get off the bus because they got no transportation. So we had one place, we thought, kind of fell through, but we're going over there at 335 Court Street, right next to Dale Thompson's law office. And we had to move some numbers around, but we didn't have any additions because we're gonna have to have rent, take care of lights, gas, waste. It's all new to the budget because we're leaving the county from. So that place at 335, that's the place, a friend of mine owned it, and he gave us an excellent rent situation that we couldn't turn down, and we should be in there come December, about the second week in December.
So it was the
335 Court Street.
And Mr. Saul, thank you for the work that you do with the veterans and all the time you put into doing that.
Well, they're very happy that we're staying downtown because they can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, and we essentially evicted them because they were in our building and we were tearing it down, obviously. It's kind of,
The only question I have here, maybe Mr. Saul can answer, on your rent, I believe, why is that lower? $8,400?
I have Monica, we kind of had agreement with our first person, with the draft, and unfortunately, that individual raised our rent another $600 a month. So, we left him, and unfortunately found another spot, and that rent there is half.
Right. Thank you.
And with the lights and with that, it's lower than what we're paying for rent.
anything else on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment only, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the budget as a whole. Any questions? Call roll.
Meetng,
Yes.
Josting,
Yes.
Crable, Longfellow, Mennel,
Yes.
Mingus, Frail,
Yes.
Rich Simpson,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Scortino, Sen,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Altpeter, Atkins,
Aye.
Conick,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Goddard, Graff,
Aye.
Hagman, Hall, Harris.
Yes.
Moving on to animal control, Department 231, page 156 to 161. The motion be done on the floor, Mr. Harris, Mr. Atkins. Discussion. We need to make a amendment. We are increasing, because of the action by the county board last month, we increased animal control fees, so we're gonna change animal control registration fees. We're gonna up it by $130,000, so that number is now $524,173. And that changes the contingency to $27,841. Can I get a motion to get that on the floor? All Atkins, discussion. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The animal control budget as, Ms. Libby, do you wanna add anything? You've sat here quietly all night. Just pass it so I can go home? There you go.
I want to relay a little bit of thanks to Mike Schoen, who's not here, who's been tremendous help this year, and then also some of the board members have been mighty doing as well. I'm not shy, I'll pronounce his name.
Okay. I'm not shy, I just can't say it. Almost do that, tutorial. Okay, call roll, please.
Josting,
Yes.
Crable, Longfellow, Mennel,
Yes.
Mingus, Frail,
Here.
Rich Simpson,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Scortino, Sen,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Altpeter, Atkins,
Aye.
Conick,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Goddard,
Aye.
Graff,
Aye.
Hagman, Hall, Harris,
Yes.
Emmett.
Yes.
Moving on to GIS, Department 232, page 162 to 165. Can we motion get down on the floor? Atkins, Jostings. Any questions or discussion? Call roll.
Mennel,
Yes.
Mingus, Frail,
Yes.
Rich Simpson,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Scortino, Sen,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Altpeter,
Yes.
Atkins,
Aye.
Conick,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Goddard, Graff,
Aye.
Hagman, Hall, Harris,
Yes.
Emmett,
Yes.
Josting, Crable, Longfellow,
Moving on to PED, Department for Fund 233, page 168, 166 to 168. Motion get that on the floor, Emick. Connie. Discussion. Call roll.
Frail,
Yes.
Rich Simpson,
Yep.
Snyder,
Yes.
Scortino, Sen,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Altpeter, Atkins,
Aye.
Conick,
Aye.
Crawford, Goddard, Graff,
Aye.
Hagman,
Aye.
Hall, Harris,
Yes.
Emmett,
Yes.
Josting, Crable, Longfellow, Mennel,
Yes.
Mingus.
American Rescue Plan Fund 234, pages 169, 171. Can motion get that on the floor? Atkins. Hall. There's no changes really, but this is a projection, we've obviously gotten all the money in, we're budgeting $10,890,000 and change on the health department building. Anybody have any questions? I mean, we're not spending it all. Call roll.
Rich Simpson.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Scortino. Sin.
Yes.
Smith. Altpeter.
Yes.
Atkins.
Yes.
Connick.
Aye.
Crawford.
Aye.
Goddard. Graff.
Aye.
Hageman. Hall. Harris. Emmett.
Yes.
Jostin. Crable. Longfellow. Mennel.
Yes.
Mingus. Frail.
Yes.
Next one is, Sheriff's Grant Fund 240, it's on pages 172 to 174, it's $35,000 from IDOT Sheriff, is that? Step, it's a, step grant, hire deputies for overtime to do traffic enforcement. Any discussion, or take a motion to get that on floor, excuse me. Mr. Harris, Mr. Goddard, any discussion? All in favor, excuse me, call roll.
Schneider.
Yes.
Scortino. Sin.
Yes.
Smith. Altpeter.
Yes.
Atkins.
Aye.
Connick.
Aye.
Crawford.
Aye.
Goddard. Graff.
Aye.
Hageman. Hall. Harris. Emmett.
Yes.
Jostin. Crable. Longfellow. Mennel.
Yes.
Mingus. Frail.
Yes.
Rich Simpson.
Yes.
Treasurer's Automation, Fund 250, pages 175, 177. Total expenditures is $17,400. This is for part-time help from the treasurer's office. Need a motion to go for Goddard, Frail. Discussion. Call roll.
Sin.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Altpeter. Atkins.
Aye.
Connick.
Aye.
Crawford.
Aye.
Goddard. Graff.
Aye.
Hageman. Hall. Harris. Emmett.
Yes.
Jostin. Crable. Longfellow. Mennel.
Yes.
Mingus. Frail.
Yes.
Rich Simpson.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Scortino.
Probation upgrade 251 on pages 178 to 181. Motion to get on the floor. Mennel, Atkins.